Shalom Aleichem Internet, my name is Rabbi Sandra Gazinski of Chabad of Bethesda, sharing with you the weekly TorahByte. This week's Torah portion is Parshat Noach, the second Torah portion in the entire Torah, and it brings to us the famous story that we're all familiar with, the story of the cataclysmic flood that God uses to wipe out the humanity that had, in a sense, lost its way completely and had no hope of return. And in a sense, God throws in his entire stock with Noach and his family, tells them to build an ark, in the ark to bring all the animals, a representation of all the animals, so that after this flood, in a sense, hits the reset button, that there will be upon which to build the world again, Noach, the humanity, the animals, the rest of the wildlife, etc., etc. Now, God gives Noach exact directions and specifications as to how this ark should be built. It should be built yea high, yea wide, yea long. It should be built with 3 floors. On the bottom will be the waist, the middle floor will be the animals, on the top floor will be Noach and his family. And then the Torah says something interesting. The Torah says, Tzohar ta'aseh la-teva. You shall make a light source for the teva. The most common and the most accepted understanding is that Noach was told then to build windows, a light source to allow the sun to shine into the ark, so that there would be some sort of light, and they wouldn't be sitting in complete and utter darkness the entire time that they were enclosed within this capsule. And that's what the commentaries find, that the words seem to, the text seems to support this idea, because there's discussion as to where to build this on the sides, than on the roof. Obviously, if you create such an opening on the roof, you are asking for serious trouble in 40 days of torrential rain. So the windows were to be created on the side of the ark, etc. But there is a pretty well accepted opinion over here that we are not talking about, that Tzohar is not a reference to a light source built in to the wall of the teva, a window, but rather a precious stone of a certain type of brilliance that it shines from within. It is its own light source. In other words, a phosphorescence of sorts that would light up the ark from within. Now, whenever a commentary provides an alternative to what is the more common sentiment, we ask ourselves two of the same questions. Number one, what is the validity of such a statement or such an opinion versus the common and accepted opinion? And number two, what is the lesson there for us? And in general, we have to back out and ask ourselves, what is the lesson of the ark and the flood for us today? Is it that every single time the weather forecast calls for torrential rains, we should go and build ourselves an ark? We should start collecting animals? Obviously, that's not what the lesson of this entire Torah portion is. But rather, I think everybody understands that there is a parallel to kind of torrential rains and flooding and what we oftentimes experience in our lives, which is the turbulent waters of stress and anxiety, of problems and issues that seem to be coming wave after wave and threaten to drown us. And the answer to that is, the solution provided by Noach, is to build ourselves, in a sense, a haven that allows us, as we've discussed in past TorahBytes, not to sail away from the problem, but to transcend the problem, as the ark did. But importantly, it's not enough just to build this capsule, to build this vehicle that allows us to transcend, but we need to have a light source in this ark. We need to have a light source in our efforts to transcend our flooded reality at this moment. Because only through having some sort of a light source, some sort of clarity and navigation and direction and inspiration, are we going to be able to survive these turbulent waters, this turbulent times in our lives. And the most common sentiment is that if you're looking for such a light source, if you're looking for guidance, or you're looking for some clarity, etc., you need to look outside of yourself, because, again, you're the one stuck in this flood. You're the one who can't figure out how to navigate it. You're being threatened to be flooded and drowned under the waves and the stress over here. And so, in order to be able to survive this, you need to look outside of yourself, to reach out, to make an opening through which light can come in, through which guidance from an outside source can come in and help you figure out how to deal with the situation. And this is by far the most common and the most viable solution that one can come up with is to allow yourself to open yourself up to help, to open yourself up to outside inspiration and guidance. However, there is a viable and equally viable approach, and sometimes it is the only correct approach, which is to not look outward, but to look inward. Sometimes that inspiration, that clarity, that guidance that you're looking for is actually within you, in an untapped resource that while life was going well and smoothly and kind of unexcitedly, you didn't even know you had. But now comes the moment. It's floods, it's turbulent waters, it's a moment of great uncertainty and anxiety. And instead of running around looking outside for somebody to help you, sometimes you can look inside and discover within yourself a light source, a brilliance you never knew existed. And that could become the great inspiration that you are really looking for. Sometimes it's right there at home. We'll share with you a story that was a chassid of the Baal Shem Tov, who was a great and a holy man, and he desired only one thing above all else, which was a revelation of Elijah the prophet. This messenger of God that helps people out in the times of great need and great uncertainty, etc. He wanted that revelation. He wanted to meet Elijah the prophet, and he came to the Baal Shem Tov, and he asked the Baal Shem Tov, he says, what can I do to deserve this, to earn this, to rise to a spiritual level where I can be worthy of a revelation of Elijah the prophet? And the Baal Shem Tov said, you as a holy chassid, as a holy man, really in fact do deserve such a revelation, and I will tell you how it is that you can get it done. It says, on Friday of this coming week, please take a basket full of clothing and food, travel to such and such a town, walk down such a street, and there you'll find at the very end of the street is a tiny ramshackle hovel of a house. And you will knock on the door, you will leave the basket, you will leave before anybody opens the door. And then you will have your revelation of Elijah the prophet. This chassid excitedly goes through the process. He prepares the food. He's so excited. He prepares himself mentally and spiritually because he knows at this moment he will follow the instructions. He will have the revelation. He places the basket. He knocks on the door. He leaves. He waits for the revelation. It doesn't happen. No revelation of Elijah the prophet. Elijah the prophet does not come to visit him. Severely disappointed, he comes back to the Baal Shem Tov and he says, I thought that if I would follow exactly what you said, Elijah the prophet would come and he would be revealed to me. And the Baal Shem Tov turns to him and says that it is surprising, in fact, that he didn't. I was sure that he would. Do this again in a couple weeks' time, and pretty sure then you will have the revelation. He goes through the same process again. He goes to this town. He goes to that house. He puts down the basket of food and clothing. He knocks on the door. He leaves. He waits for the revelation of Elijah the prophet. Nothing. He comes back devastated, and he says, Rebbe, he says, I'm not worthy to have a revelation, just tell me, but I can't keep on going through this. And the Baal Shem Tov turns to him and says, no, you deserve the revelation of Elijah the prophet, and he should be according to all calculations. So go, and this time you're going to change one thing up, and this time I will guarantee that you will have the revelation. Travel to the town, put the basket down on the doorstep, but instead of knocking, put your ear to the door and listen. And I guarantee you at that moment you will have a revelation. This man, very, very excited. Now he has an absolute commitment and guarantee from the Baal Shem Tov. He travels down to the town, he takes the food and the clothing in the basket, he puts it down on the doorstep, he puts his ear to the door of the house. And in it he hears a little child turning or speaking to its mother. And this child says as follows. He says, Mama, says, Tati, Dad has passed away so already a year ago at this point, and it's been very, very difficult for us. And there's no food left in the cabinets and the cupboards, and it's almost Shabbos, so what are we going to eat? And the mother turns to the child and says, don't worry, mein kind, don't worry, my child. God is looking out for us. Every time that I became desperate, and we had no food or clothing left, Elijah the prophet came and he paid us a visit and he left a basket of food and clothing on our doorstep. I have no doubt that he will do so again this Shabbos because we are praying for him. And the man had his revelation of Elijah the prophet because he realized that instead of looking outside for inspiration, sometimes the inspiration, sometimes the Elijah the prophet is you yourself. Good Shabbos.